Okay, so on today's episode, we are going to go over how I make a leather sheath. Um, I have these four knives right here that I need to make sheaths for. We're just going to pick one of these out and just do the video on that. They're all going to be the same type of sheath. So I think we'll just go ahead and take the biggest one and start there. Um, this I am not a leather person. I do not know um, a ton about leather making. So sheath making, I I know enough to make a decent functional sheath. So that is all we are going to do today. It's going to hold the knife. It's going to hold it secure. It's going to protect it. Um, Other than that, I don't get too fancy. So this is just a basic sheath that will go on your belt. And so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a paper template of the sheath. And so I like to take the paper and fold it in half and get a nice crease line right down the middle. And then we can open that back up and we set our knife right on that crease and then roll it down. And right there is about where our sheath is. We're going to trace around that. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit because I don't need that on the top. And I'm going to move that blade a little closer to the crease. So it's going to set just about like that. We'll go ahead and trace around the knife, being sure to get all the dimensions right. Stay on that just like that. So that is where our guard is going to set out here like that. From there, we'll fold this back in half this way. And that is where our knife is going to set. So this is going to be a compression fit. It's not going to be wet molded or anything like that. I'm going to draw roughly a half an inch or so out from where the guard is. So since that is our widest point right here on the guard, we need to make sure that the sheath is plenty big to fit that, but we don't want to be too big. We want it to friction fit in there so it's going to hold tight. And this handle is fairly wide handle, so it's going to take a lot of leather to go around the back side of that. So we want to give ourselves plenty. And I'm just going to draw a line roughly about a half an inch or so outside of where the blade edge is. Kind of something like that. And so the top of the sheath is going to be up around here. And so we're going to make that kind of a rounded something along those lines. Then we will have a belt loop that is going to extend up from roughly right in here like this. So you can see, so that will extend up like that and it will fold over and be sewed to the back of the sheath. Okay, so here it is unfolded. This is what we will cut out of the leather. We need to make sure that we mark the hair side and the flesh side of the leather so we don't accidentally put this on there backwards. So we need to make sure it's a right or left-handed sheath. So a right-handed sheath would set against your hip with this side against your hip, just like that. So this would be the hair side. So I always like to mark that so I don't mess that up. This will be the flesh side of the leather, the inside. So this is where our belt loop will be. So we need to save this one and we will cut this one off. If it was a left-handed sheath, it would be the opposite. We would cut this one off and save this one. So this is going to be a right-handed sheath. We'll just quickly cut this side off. Like that. So there we are. And then we will extend this out once we get it onto the leather. So there is our template. And we'll get the leather up here and get to cutting on it. Okay, so we got it all traced out on there. We're going to uh, take my X-Acto knife and get this thing cut out of there. Okay, so here it is all cut out. I rounded up the top of the belt loop part. Um, so I have my tools that I need. I don't know what they're called. So a stitch groover maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so first thing I want to do, I want to thin this down. So when it gets, it's going to be folded over just like that and sewed in here. So I want that thinned out so it's not going to catch. So I'm just going to take this. I don't know if that's what this is for. This is what I use it for. Thin that out just a little bit so it's not, doesn't stick up quite so much right here when you sew that, when we sew that on there. I'm going to take and I'm going to run a groove right up the middle of this. It will help it fold a little better. I'm going to run about 3 of them. And just give that leather a place to kind of fold over. And I might even make them a little deeper. And so now when that folds over, it'll fold right on that center line. So it's going to fold over just like that. It'll fold over on that center line where we got all those grooves in there. And then next we're going to mark out where the stitching is going to be. So I took this and I measured roughly about halfway to where our welt is going to be. And that way I can mark out the line to where our stitches are going to be, and then I'll use the stitch cutter, stitch groover. So our stitches set down in the leather so they're not sticking up. And we have that set to the same width as where we just ran that marker. We'll run this right down the side. There we go. We got our stitching groove in there. Now we'll do just a little bit of tooling. I don't do a lot of tooling, but I'll do a little bit. So we'll get that wetted down a little bit and do some tooling. Okay, so wet paper towel. Just going to wet this down a little bit so it'll accept the stamps better. Don't need to soak the whole thing. I don't think. I don't know. I never do. So we'll just get it good and damp, and we can wet it down some more once we get going. I think I will go ahead and do this. It'll accept the dye a little better if I do the whole thing. It's all the same moisture. I'm going to start with that one right there. I like where I can see. Start right there. And that. And we're going to go to one of these. Then we go back to a little flowery stamp, and I'm going to put it right on the end of each one of those. And then over those, I'm going to use this one. Whoops. Around that little flower. So right there is what our pattern is going to look like. So I'll finish that out. It's going to go all the way around both sides, and we'll pick up from there. The next thing we want to do is we need to cut what is going to be the welt off of our stencil and get it put on the leather and cut out. So we'll get started doing that. Okay, so here we have the welt cut out. We're going to glue that in here. First thing I want to do is I want to trim a little bit off the bottom right here, because as you fold that over, that's going to be in the way down here. So we're going to trim off, between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, somewhere in there. And that way it also leaves a hole down here at the bottom, so if there's ever water get in there, it can run out. Hopefully there isn't water that gets in there, but see, we'll leave that just a hair short of center, and that'll be a little gap right there. So we'll get some glue on there, get that glued on there, and let that set up for a little bit. Okay, we'll let that set up for a little bit here, and then we can stitch the belt loop. Trim those back where we can burn them. So there, that's that side right there. We'll get those burnt, and then we'll stitch the outside. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to get this side glued up. We want to make sure that we get everything lined up as close to pot as we possibly can. So our stitching goes through the right spot. All right, so we will let that set for a little bit. Make sure it's good and stuck, and then we'll stitch it. We'll do a minimum of 3 back stitches. Turn it around and go back the other way. There. Okay. So now we can just go straight to stitching. And the back stitch. I'm going to go 4. That will be it. So there's stitching on the front. All right, so here it is. Ready to try the knife in it for the first time. Oh, that fits nice and tight. You got your nice little belt loop right there. Carry it just like that on your belt. Fits good and tight. It is not going to come out of there. So, on a good friction fit. And that is all the way down in there. So there we go. Next is take care of this edge. We're going to grind that edge down and then burnish it. Okay, there it is, all nice and smooth. I will take and we'll trim this little lip right here once we get back to the house, and we'll just be almost done. You can see in there, I have this little edge right here that needs trimmed off. So we take this tool here, don't know what it's called, but there. So now we have that edge all nice and rounded up. We're ready to put our finish coat on the edge. Okay, so I have some edge coat brown for the sheath. It is not, I've had this for several years. I should probably throw it away. It is not very good. It has separated in the thing. Get a dab of that on there. Put it on the edge like this. Making sure not to get the stitching. Don't want to get any of that on the stitching. Make sure we get all that edge right there. Like that, and we will let that sit. I'm going to get this right up here too. We will let that set and dry out, and probably put another coat on and then burnish it. Okay, so this is all dried out now. I'm going to take my little burnishing tool and just round those edges up a little bit. Try to get that nice and shiny, and you turn around and use this side too. Round those edges over. So next, what I'm going to do is I take a little bit of paste wax. It doesn't take a whole lot, got too much. So a little bit of paste wax on here, and I just like to, helps kind of waterproof it, makes it a little shiny once it's all on there. Does darken it just a little bit. Do both sides. Then, after I get that on there, I just take a little lighter. Just try to melt that in there a little bit. There's probably better ways to do this. There we go. We will take, let's see, a blue shop towel. And just kind of buff that out just a little bit. Just smooth everything up. And there we have it. There is the sheath. Kind of hard to see the color of it right there. I will get it in some better light with the knife and show a finished product. So there it is, all finished up. It's nothing too fancy, but it doesn't look too bad. It's perfectly functional sheath. Holds the knife in there really well. As you can see right here, holds the knife nice and tight. Got the good belt loop on the back, so it will carry it with you if you want. Throw it in your pack, or however you want to do it. So there it is.